Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of Digital Health on Air. And today I'm super excited to host and have joined me another founder in the struggle here of making healthcare more accessible and better for everyone. So I'm joined by Bobby, the co-founder and CEO of Elion. He'll tell us all about it, but Elion is a marketplace designed to help health systems make sense of the healthcare technology field, which of course only continues to grow as technology becomes more and more a part of everything we do. And so for all of our health system leaders, our partners in the broader health tech, digital health ecosystem, when you're looking to replace, add, enhance, modify, choose who the right technology partners are for you in the set of challenges you have, this episode is the must watch. So it'll be super, super informative. So thank you, Bobby.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, I'll start with the high level frame, then we can dive into the heart of it. But give us the 30,000 foot view of the healthcare technology field today, and why a newer organization like you're, a third party like Elion, is so vital for the health systems as they're navigating a lot of change.
Yeah, of course. So really big picture over the last 10 years, we think the healthcare technology landscape has gotten massively more complicated. My own journey here started about 10 years ago or so, and I think we'll get into this a little bit later, but have just seen the number of solutions explode. You had a ton of technologists come into the field over the last 10 to 15 years, a huge explosion of startups that, I'm sure you saw directly as well up and through the pandemic that just made the field that much more complicated. And then, of course, everything going on with AI now makes it even that much more difficult. And so, our belief is there's a real need for there to be out there someone who can help make sense of this landscape. What is the structure? What do different solutions do? I mean, I'm sure you guys experience this as well, but you often go to the website of a particular vendor solution, and it can be really challenging to figure out, what does their product even do, and who exactly does it even serve, and am I the right type of customer? Does it work with my workflow? And so, really just saw a need with the growing complexity and kind of the advancement in technology that we're seeing to create a solution that helps people make sense of this landscape.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a really good segue to like what was the inspiration. I know we met probably pretty early in your journey. I don't know if we were helpful, but
Mm-hmm.
I was awesome just to be able to nerd out with someone who was really committed to this. So talk us about like the inspiration, the catalyst, like what led you to found Elion, and then really as you think of it, you sort of articulate at a high level, right? Just to help people make sense of things, like where does Elion fill the gap that is there for health systems looking for solutions today?
Yeah. So Elion came out of a lot of my own experience with the challenges of vendor selection. So brief background, I spent a little over a decade in healthcare, was really early at Oscar Health, helped build that company kind of through the early days of the Affordable Care Act, then at a company in the life sciences space called Formation Bio. And across both of those runs, just had to make a ton of vendor decisions. And, was literally in the shoes, I think, of probably many of the folks in the audience trying to figure out, okay, I've got this problem. Who are the vendors that I should be looking at? Like, Google around or try and find resources that help me. Okay, does this address the problem that I'm trying to fix? Do they sell to people who look like me? And just continually struggled with those challenges. And it seemed so crazy to me that there weren't better solutions out there to help people navigate it because, for better or worse, healthcare is a very vendor driven space. Your average hospital literally has over 1,300 vendors that they're working with across technology and services. And so it just felt like there needed to be a solution out there to help people kind of navigate the landscape and make sense of what's out there and kind of what folks do and who they serve. So if you think about Elion and what we do, and if you think of vendor selection almost as like a funnel process, right? How do you go from kind of, a lot of folks out there to the one that's the right fit for you? We really think about helping people, I'll say, through the first 2/3 of that process is almost how to think about kind of Elion and our product. So first, there's a few different pieces to it. One, we have what we call internally our taxonomy that just makes sense of the space and kind of structures the universe of all these solutions. And we build out then a really robust list of all the solutions that are there to just help people understand what is that full set of vendors that you should be considering. And the second piece is we build out really in-depth profiles to help people, and as best we can, really plain English, what do these companies do and who do they serve? who do they integrate with, things like that to help you then quickly narrow into what is that short list of vendors that you should really be spending time with. And then the last piece is we do a whole bunch of research that helps people get the knowledge they need to go out and evaluate these solutions in a really educated way. So, can we essentially take people through the journey from, hey, I know next to nothing about a given category of solutions to, I know the short list I should be focused on, and I feel really equipped to go out and evaluate those vendors in a high quality way.
Awesome. You said something that I want to Farrah will tease me, but triple underline and let it sit with folks. It's health systems have over 1,300 vendors. Like that is a remarkable amount of complexity just to manage once it's there. And the funnel must be much, much, much larger when you're doing the evaluation. And I know word of mouth is still the way that, 1,300 plus different solutions get into a health system. So very much a clear need. All right, let's dive into the realness, right? I'm, say, a health system access leader. I've been tasked with evaluating AI solutions for a call center, like top of mind for everyone today, right? Like, how do we automate some of these call center workflows? So we know we want to reduce hold times, inbound call volumes, but we're really flexible on the how. And so a very, I think, common use case or real scenario we're seeing across the health system ecosystem, the health system landscape. And so what have you really learned over your experience at Elion about finding the right vendors to evaluate?
Yeah, no, I love this question because I used to run call centers in my prior life. So this one definitely resonates for me. Um, you know, I think the starting point, and this is true, probably for most vendor selection, but it really starts with identifying what is the problem that you're truly trying to solve and what's the root of that problem, right? Because if you're talking about things like hold times and those types of issues, what is the reason for that? Is it because you're getting too much call volume because people can't do what they want to do through self-serve options that are available to them? Is there some sort of consistent issue? Maybe there's a billing issue that's coming up that's driving a lot of inbound call volume, or maybe people just prefer to speak to a person and you just literally don't have the staff or there's other issues that are getting in the way of it. And so once you understand that root cause, then it's like, okay, how do we, based on this root cause, what's the type of vendor or type of solution that we're looking for? Okay, so maybe do we need a conversational chat solution that allows people to schedule appointments or kind of take care of things directly themselves? Do we need agent assistance solutions that make it easier for our agents to do their job and just surfaces the information that they need to answer their questions faster and more efficiently? Is it a revenue cycle solution? Like maybe it's all these billing calls we're getting. And so if we just fixed something that was leading to a bunch of questions on that side, that would drop off the call volume. Or honestly, maybe it's even hard for you to assess what the root cause is, and you need an intelligence solution that allows you to better understand what are people even calling in about in the first place. And so maybe a roundabout answer to your question, but I really think it does come down to understanding what is driving the problem that you're facing, and then directing you to the specific type of solution you should be looking at.
No, look, I think it's sound advice, and we see that from our best and most thoughtful health system leaders. It's really start with the problem and the root causes, and really diagnose a problem as opposed to starting with solutions and trying to see if it'll help with a version of the problem. So very, very, very sound advice. You mentioned the first 2/3, so that's probably like 1/3, but as long as education. As you get into like the first third of evaluation and selection journey, now we're say that we're identified the problem, we identified the root causes, we've done our research, we've spoken to the Elion team. The access leader is now in the demo phase. So everyone they're speaking to, the set of finalists or late stage folks in consideration, are making big claims, right? But it's really hard to tell which partner vendor is legitimate, who can actually make an impact, right? Like everyone's looking and feeling the same. So like, what are your tips for cutting through really the marketing speak, the noise, and finding the right partner for that right problem that's properly done?
Yeah, this is really hard. And I wish there was there's a silver bullet for this. So, I mean, I think first it starts with, and we try to help with this, but there's certainly others that do as well, is just, are you as educated as you can be on this category? Like, do you know the right questions to ask? Do you have kind of the right set of full requirements? So first is just doing your diligence as best you can in advance of bringing these folks in for the demos. But assuming you do that, assuming you run the demos, you get a lot of your questions answered. I mean, I really think the two main other things that folks do and can be hard and time consuming, but are really important are, one, if the product allows it, can you just spend a lot of time testing the product, like literally getting your users in there, playing around with it, and do that across multiple different options to really get a real sense of, hey, yeah, it looks great in the demo, it looks so seamless, everything kind of fits together, but it more meets the realities of our needs and our use cases. Where do we think it's likely to fall down based on that? And then the second piece is getting as high quality of references as you can. And of course, vendors will make introductions, but like a hiring process, can you get those back channel references with the folks they didn't introduce you to? And can you not just speak to the executives who are maybe the ones driving the decision, though that's valuable, but can you also speak to some of the frontline users and what their experiences and challenges have been? And obviously doing that with folks who have as similar of kind of a situation and set of use cases to you as possible will make that as the most valuable. But really, I think that's testing it, kicking the tires as best you can, and then getting the feedback from the folks who really lived with it for a while. It can get you a long way.
Super helpful. Is there often an overlooked step or a question that you think teams miss out on that would really level up their evaluation or selection process?
The ones that come to mind are probably like fairly straightforward, but we see them happen more often than you'd expect. So I'll just say them anyway. I think one is, so often because in healthcare, honestly, it's often such a sales-driven process, and there's so much inbound that's going into health systems. You'll see folks very quickly running down the path of evaluating a particular solution because they got that inbound or because they have that connection, without taking a kind of step back and holistically looking at the market and the options available and kind of how it fits in. So it's just making sure that, hey, like, if you're really going to evaluate a solution, like, start with okay, going back to what is the problem, what is the cause, and what is the right set of areas that we should look, so that you kind of don't get to the end and then realize, oh, there's 3 other solutions out there we really should have spent time with, but we didn't because we just kind of ran down the path with this one. I think the other thing, again, another maybe somewhat basic sounding step, but we see it messed up quite a bit, is just making sure you have all the right stakeholders involved from the get-go. We just too often see, a wrench get thrown in late in the game because, someone wasn't looped in or involved in the process who should have been from the early days. And it's just kind of making sure you really understand who's going to be impacted by these things and the role they should play in the decision. We see as one of the kind of key steps to make sure that you don't overlook.
Awesome. I asked you a question that people should ask, or a key step that's helpful. On the flip side, as you partner with different health systems who are leading evaluations, have you found like, hey, this was a really thoughtful question they asked us, that shows others like, hey, this is a thought pattern that should be like replicated or something to emulate?
It's a good question. I think most recently we've been talking a lot about kind of the AI space. A lot is where we particularly engaging with health systems, and I think I don't know that there's like the most incisive question yet, but we really see folks, they're pretty rapidly making progress with their abilities to evaluate AI-driven solutions. Particularly, I think there's kind of 2 things. One is just around kind of the governance process and really being able to assess things like fairness and bias, and kind of the underlying capabilities of the model. But then even beyond that, just better evaluating AI-driven solutions and whether they ultimately kind of deliver, because it's so different than evaluating more feature-based solutions. Like, do they ultimately deliver the outcome that you were looking for? Almost more like evaluating a person's, work product than evaluating a list of requirements. And so I think the evolution that we're seeing there and how people are evaluating AI-driven solutions is really interesting. I think it's pretty nascent, but you definitely see some kind of leading health systems making progress more quickly there.
No, that's really cool. I get that because normally folks are checking off like, hey, does it this, but this is a different evaluation with a different ROI.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It's going to have to, I think, shift the paradigm in how people evaluate tech-driven solutions pretty significantly. And so we're just getting there. We're just kind of getting to those days, especially with more agentic solutions. So it'll be interesting.
Awesome. Well, never a dull day in healthcare, and it clearly
Yeah,
exciting
exactly.
times. Okay, so we were both at the HLTH Health Conference last week. We ran into each other. For all the viewers, Bobby is super tall, like massively tall. The Zoom, the little Zoom box, or the DHOA box doesn't do him justice. So, um, you guys created, I think, coming into the conference, a fantastic vendor map, right? With have like really thoughtful analysis and how you bucket folks, how people should navigate their time while they're at the health conference, and so obviously with the focus on emerging AI solutions. So, were there things AI specific or not AI specific that you heard at health that really surprised you, or had you go back like, hey, we're going to tweak that vendor map, or this was really interesting or different than what I had expected coming into to health this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the overall kind of, I'll say, vibe shift that we felt between last year and this year is, whereas last year was a little bit more still, hey, AI is new on the scene and this is exciting and where things go. Now it feels much more like of a, okay, the rubber's meeting the road here, and we're now all in various stages of pilots or in some cases enterprise rollouts. And so I think the conversation in a good way has sobered a bit and is much more kind of tactical and specific. So I think that was exciting to see, and we were glad to see that. I think the other thing we're excited about is just seeing how the conversation is. Obviously for most of this year, AI scribes have been kind of the big use case in the AI world as it relates to providers and health systems, and we're excited to see the conversation moving. Those are still important. There's still a lot more kind of room to run there, but see it moving to kind of other areas. Tons happening on the revenue cycle side, tons happening on the more patient-facing side of things, contact centers, patient access, those sorts of areas as well. So we're excited to see it broadening, and even I think we're still a little ways away from broader usage, but more clinically focused use cases as well, and kind of how it's starting to feed in there to augment clinicians in their day to day. And so seeing the conversation progress in ways that I think are pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, 100% agreed. I think it's past concept and in full application in a lot of ways, and so that's really exciting. And I think as you're pointing out, the once it's applied, then you get the next version, the next version, the next version that gets better, better, better. So super exciting. Um, the, you talked about scribes, but broadly speaking, there's a lot of players in this space, and you guys cover a number of different categories and very thoughtfully. And so, like, what activity are you seeing from health systems? Like, are they focused on consolidation, additions, subtractions? Like, as they look at like the soup of solutions out there, like, where are you seeing
Yeah,
people really lean in?
yeah. It's funny. We've had a number of conversations with health systems about this recently, and there is, as you probably experienced too, a desire to consolidate. I think people feel like they the last 5 years, and again, particularly through the pandemic, went out on kind of a buying spree, brought in a whole bunch of new solutions. And now they're kind of looking at it and saying, hey, do we even have, do we have duplication across a lot of these things? How does this intersect with what our EHR can do? And so I think there's definitely a little bit of a feeling of, hey, we'd like to consolidate if we can. We'd like to move away from point solutions, work with platforms as much as possible. So I think that's very much a feeling that we're seeing uh, in the market broadly. I think there's still, in those same conversations, we hear opportunities for very, say, specialty specific or workflow specific solutions, where maybe some of the EHRs, because they have such breadth of what they have to cover from a capability perspective, they can only get 80% of the way there. Or there's particular areas where it's just too nuanced for them to really go deep. And so we see lots of interest and opportunity still for some of those, very specialty specific use cases. And then I think, kind of as a general thing on the AI front, I think there's a general feeling of a lot of different folks are racing to be the AI driven platform that lives alongside the EHR to the extent something like that can or will exist, right? And so as people are picking out these initial wedges, be it scribing solution, a contact center solution, or something else, how can they take these initial use cases and kind of very quickly broaden to adjacent ones to then become that trusted platform partner for the health system. So they don't need 10 more solutions living alongside that. And so those are some of the most common sentiments we're hearing these days.
Okay, awesome, super helpful. All right, so we're here in November 2024. We're gonna start seeing the lists of all the different talking heads on LinkedIn talking about their 2025 predictions. So we won't go that route, but I definitely want to get your perspective on just how you think things will evolve over the next few years. But let's start with like a more pointed question, maybe provocative, but like just is this market too large, and will it continue to grow, or will it start to shrink?
Yeah. And this market being healthcare technology, selling into health
Yes,
systems
exactly, exactly.
specifically.
Yeah, like think of the different categories you cover, like healthcare technology.
Yeah. 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 I think it probably, I think we're still in the like explosion space around AI at the moment. Like I think we're still seeing so many new solutions coming to market. I mean, we literally have to track this on a day-to-day basis for our product. And so it's exploding quickly still. I do think, like I was saying kind of in the previous question, there's a desire for consolidation on the buyer side. Like it's just too confusing. There's too much out there. And so I think we're probably, if we're not there, we're probably still not too far away from this starting to shrink back down into a number of vendors that, really prove themselves to be trusted partners for these solutions. So yeah, we may be still on the upswing, but I don't think we're too far away from the peak and maybe into the consolidation phase because it is a complicated space.
Awesome. Well, look, I think I'll ask you one last question, and then we'll wrap, because this has been awesome and super educational, informative. You've been on your journey at Elion. You've learned a ton. Pre-Elion also, healthcare both from the payer side, the life science side, the health tech side, like it. Um, just what excites you? Like what at the end of the day, as you're helping health systems make sense and navigate all the noise, like what really gives you excitement?
Yeah, I mean, on a personal level for this business, I mean, we're excited about helping to up level care broadly by helping these health systems, you know, find and bring on the best technology that's out there. And I think being able to support that at scale and bring that even to folks who maybe don't have as big of pockets or as big of teams that are able to do the same level of research and diligence. I mean, I think there's just so much great tech out there these days, and it's getting better so fast. And I think it's going to be able to have such a big impact on care that we're excited to hopefully help make the navigation of that transition a little bit smoother for folks. And so yeah, we generally run as optimists on our side, and certainly lots of challenges out there, certainly lots of things to fix, but we think we're excited about the direction things are going.
Awesome. Well, clearly a very noble and impactful mission, and of course, near and dear to our heart. And clearly, Bobby and I can nerd out about this all day, every day. But huge thanks. Thank you so much for joining us. This was one of my favorite episodes. So we will sign off and say, hey, see you
Awesome.
next times or next week's Digital Health on Air episode. Thanks, Bobby.
Thanks so much. Talk soon.